In today's episode, I actually go somewhere and I do stuff, and I've got more credit to add to the growing pile. The first thing I did was go off to a boot sale, but as I teased in the last episode, it was in fact cancelled. There was some sort of blizzard hovering over Bristol and Bristol alone, so I decided to drive straight through and went to Swindon. Now in Swindon there is an independent video game store known as Retro Games HQ. Now this is in the back of a family run music store. I believe they have an upstairs dedicated to Nintendo as well, and I'm going to show you some of the footage that I captured from that store here. So Retro Games HQ in Swindon, off the main sort of high street. It is kind of all over the place in there. I'm not going to call it a mess because there is some sort of organisation, but it is a little bit all over the place, which is kind of good for those who just want to rummage, because you will find things you probably weren't looking for. I am, of course, looking for promo copies on the Xbox 360 and half on the Xbox One as well. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me talk about it right now. However, I found one, but for some reason they had priced this up. This was $7.99. Now, I haven't looked at this in CEX to know how much it actually is, but I know that it's not $7.99, or at least I don't think it is. And my knowledge of that is based on the next game that I find, which is a very cheap game in CEX, but they've priced it up as $9.99. Battlefield Bad Company. Again, a game I'm after, but $9.99 is far too much for me to pay. I'm not going to overpay for these, because I know that CEX charge the same amount. So if anyone reaches out and says, hey, I've got a load of promo copies, I'll sell them to you for like CEX prices or less than, happy days. If I see them in a boot sale and they are less than CEX price, happy days. If I find them in CEX, I will buy them. However, I'm not going to overpay for these. I want to collect them. I'm not like super desperate to get them at the same time. So again, over the other side this time, wall of PS1, some cabinets with some random stuff in. I don't quite understand the cabinets in this store because they don't really house anything too expensive. It's just somewhere else to put stuff. Loads of Spectrum games, Commodore 64 and whatever, and then there's just random stacks of like original Xbox, Xbox 360. Some of them are expensive, some of them are not expensive. They have an awful lot of like sealed things dotted in with non-sealed promo copy special editions and so on and so forth. Then we get to the mecca of this store. This is the Mega Drive section, and oh my days, are there games here. Now I visited this before I went anywhere else, therefore hadn't really built up any sort of money. We don't really have an awful lot in this series to just go and spend, and I am trying to refrain from just spending willy-nilly, so I'm only going to be picking up things that I absolutely want. Now, I do fairly regularly visit Swindon. This is the first time that I've been in this store, but now that I've been in there and I know what it's about, and I have a rough idea of some prices, and I can freeze frame whenever I want and look at these prices, I can kind of gauge how much I'm going to need to be able to buy some stuff. So on this trip, this was more like a recon. You know, this wasn't me looking to go and buy something. This was me just having a little look at what they had. There are some games there that I wouldn't mind picking up, and that's not all the Mega Drive they have. They have Master System, but then again, over here again, we have more Mega Drive, and there are the odd game dotted around the place as well. So I'm definitely going to have to go back and have another look, but I want to go back with some cash. So had a little look at Krusty's Super Fun House there because we already have that, and $7.99 I thought was a good price. So just having a little look and sort of making a note of a few prices just to see whether they are good value or not. And then I can move around here because they have glass cabinets for days with just all sorts of stuff in them. Mega Drive stuff, Dreamcast. I mean, if you're into your Dreamcast stuff, this place has an awful lot of Dreamcast stuff. If you're into your Sega Saturn, again, they have an awful lot of Sega Saturn games. More is it PS1 underneath? I can't really tell. I think it might be Sega Saturn yet again. I'd like to get a Sega Saturn at one point, but there aren't too many games on it that I played as a kid, to be fair. Die Hard Arcade and a few of the sports titles. More PS1 stuff there. There were people in here. This was a Saturday, so it was fairly busy, and I didn't really want to go and annoy people by trying to just film for the sake of it. So, side note, I've just looked up that Wolverine game. They had it for $7.99 promo copy, and CEX charged $12 for the standard. Yes, I can get a promo copy in CEX, but it's still going to cost me £12. So should I have bought that? Yes, I should have. and that is why you look things up. Absolutely should have bought it. Battlefield Bad Company, on the other hand, that game is £1 in CEX, and they had $9.99. I don't really understand the pricing in this store. I mean, that is a massive discrepancy there. Why would you charge £5 less for a promo copy of a game that goes for £12 in CEX, but then you're charging £9 more for a game that is literal pennies in CEX? It doesn't really make much sense. Maybe it was an error, I really don't know. But then with that being said, CEX charge £6 for the Steelbook of Battlefield Bad Company, which I would not mind picking up at some point. I really couldn't tell you how much this video game store charged for that game, or rather would charge. I didn't see it there myself, but I will be going back again at some point. We can have another little look, and this time I will absolutely look up everything I find, because that for $7.99 was a bargain by the sound of things. So it was therefore time for me to build up the cash balance in this series. I need to go and make money so that I can go into these type of places and just buy up the video games. Yes, I can take things to trade, because as I mentioned, someone was trading something in there, so it's obvious that they take games in. That's how they get them. I don't know whether the prices are fair or not. I'm guessing they don't price match CEX. He actually came out of the back. He was looking on the computer when I walked in there, so he must have been looking at like eBay prices and whatever, came out and gave the guy who was trading in a trade price. Makes sense that that's how they do it, and they don't price match CEX. There is a CEX near this shop, but it's not near enough that they need to price match. So I went off in search of loot. I went to my first charity shop, which unfortunately yielded absolutely sod all. This is a wall of DVDs. I mentioned recently that I'm going to start looking at DVDs a little bit closer, because there are some that are worth money, whether that be trading them into CEX or whether it be putting them back on eBay and trying to get money out of them that way. There was a lot of Stargate, which unfortunately for me doesn't have any money. Initially thought that that might be a PS4 game, but then of course noticed that it was a Blu-ray. Fair bit of Inspector Morse, which, yes, as you're rightly thinking, isn't worth anything. But in terms of like those DVDs there, if you're willing to sit there or stand there or whatever and scan through everything, I'm sure you'll find something worth selling or trading. I wasn't really willing to do it on this occasion. Don't rule it out in the future if I'm desperate and maybe I have a spare, I don't know, half an hour. There are some games, or rather there were some games here, not as many as there usually are. They do normally have some sort of Xbox 360 section, but on this occasion it was just loads of random PC games, and I am making an absolute mess. Needless to say, I found nothing. I often see people go into this store, Cash Generator, Cash Converter, I think it's Cash Converter, and they find loads of cheap games. Now, in my defense, I wasn't looking at the prices here, so I have absolutely no idea if I could have maybe bought something that was good value, because I wasn't looking at prices. I mean, I know I'm showing you the price there, but I wasn't really paying much attention to prices. I was purely on a promo hunt. I never go in Cash Converter, so it was just, to me anyway, I was thinking, I'm going to find them. It's inevitable that they're going to be here. They're not going to price them up. Why would they? No one prices these up, apart from that store that I was just in for some reason. But on this occasion, for whatever reason, there just weren't any here. I'm absolutely dumbfounded. I mean, I thought that was one first and foremost because it's got like a sun fading on the spine, and that is something that catches me out an awful lot. If there's sun fading on the spine where they've been sat on someone's shelf in a window or something, it does look like a promo copy. Maybe I could fool people into thinking that I have loads of promo copies if I just buy sun-faded ones. But yeah, there definitely are games here that I should have bought. Outfit there for whatever that was, £1 maybe, which is a pretty good price actually. But yeah, probably should have just looked for games in general and bought them in general. Forza Horizon, which I believe they were £6 if I could just see the price, which is a good price for Forza Horizon. But like I mentioned, wasn't looking for just games in general. Now that has to be something that changes, and it will change in the next episode. I won't just only be looking for promo copies. I need to get out of that. If I find them, happy days, and I am going to actively look for them, but I need to still build out the collection. There are loads of games I don't have that I want, so in the next episode I can tell you that I actually do go to a car boot. Now it's not the best car boot sale in the world, but I do find some decent things, and one of which is a game that isn't a promo copy. So in the last episode, I mentioned that I bought more games off Vinted. Now this was paid for by me selling my PS1 collection if you will, because there was only a few of the games there, but I sold 3 bundles of them, 4 in the end actually. One sold after I'd finished filming the video. So updated figures on screen for you now. I now have to run with like a Vinted balance as well as a cash balance as well as a CEX credit balance because they're all kind of different. But with the games that I've purchased now taken off, of course last week we picked up NASCAR, which traded in for whatever it was it £12 it traded in for? You could buy it less, brand new on eBay. Makes no sense, but there it is. This week I bought 3 games. They actually turned up. They sent them. I was shocked. Can't remember off the top of my head how much I bought them for, but it is on screen for you now. Really good deal, this one. Now I can't remember how much I paid for these. It's on screen for you right now off the top of my head. I genuinely can't remember. It might be 7 or 8, maybe 9. I don't think it was quite 9. It was a good deal, and that's why I kind of thought that they weren't going to get sent out. I'm trying to cut this through the lens of the camera because the camera's in the way of my face, so I do apologise. But either way, yeah, I didn't think they were going to get sent out because it was such a good deal on my part. Now, what I'm trying to do here, and I did mention it in the last episode, was I'm trying to just stretch my money that little bit further. I am turning cash, essentially, the Vinted balance, into store credit. We don't have to worry about threshold because I generated this from personal collection, but also it's not cash, it's Vinted balance. It's not sort of tax deductible, if you will. So with that being said, this is going to go straight to CEX. I'm not going to keep any of these. First game, of course, is Battlefront 2. This is the Deluxe Edition, the Elite Trooper Edition. That to CEX makes absolutely no difference. It is just Battlefront 2. Can't remember off the top of my head how much this one traded in for by itself, and again it will be on screen for you, but that is not a bad price to pay. If I was into Star Wars, I'd absolutely keep that. To be honest, if I was into Star Wars, I'd probably already have these games because this is Jedi Fallen Order. Another game with a little bit of credit value to it. These were all from the same seller. That is Grubby. I did clean it up and it looked really nice, and they took all these games no problem. And the last game was Ninjago. I can't remember what it's called. It's Lego whatever, but this was the most expensive game there, all from the same seller. In this instance, I actually took advantage of something that is definitely a tip, and it's not like a groundbreaking tip that many of you won't already know, but when I'm trying to do this type of thing, pick up 3, 4, 5 games for undervalue, if you will, and then trade them in and get more in terms of trade than I would in terms of cash, I'm looking for the seller to have more than 2 or 3 games. In this instance, it was 3. I caught them as they went up, and I was lucky that they had like bundle discount already on. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't 50%, which is the most bundle discount you can get. I think it was more like 25, 30, which is still decent, of course, but it means that you can go and like build your own bundle from the seller's items. I added these 3 games and it automatically took off the percentage. I then confirmed it and paid for it and it was mine. You used to have to request the bundle. So when this happens, or used to happen, and someone would list games cheap, you wouldn't be able to bundle them all together and buy them. You had to bundle them all together and then request the bundle. So the seller then had to confirm that it was okay that you bought them. It didn't really make any sense. They then would select like the parcel size, so you knew how much you had to pay in terms of postage. But of course, by the time that happens and the person realizes they have an offer to confirm or a bundle to confirm, someone's already gone in and bought one of the games, 2 of the games, or even all of the games. But now they've changed it so that I can literally just chuck all these games together. It automatically does the discount. It automatically tells me how much postage I'm going to need to pay, and I can pay for it there and then before anyone else can find them and swoop in. I was lucky. This person was literally listing them as I was refreshing. So one popped up, I think it was Battlefield first, which was a good deal. And then Jedi popped up, which was again decent but not good enough to buy by itself, and I was just refreshing. I was like, please list something else worth putting into this bundle. I needed one more game, and then bang, Ninjago popped up and I was like, yes, that's good enough. Whack 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 all together and done. And okay, I haven't like quadrupled my money. I haven't turned like 7 or 8 quid into 50 quid trade, but I've turned my £7 or £8 cash into, what was it, like £19 in credit? That's pretty damn good. So updated figures on the screen for you now. I took them straight in. Here's the voucher. We now have a decent amount. It's growing. I am, of course, looking to pick up a Series X at some point, and yes, I do have a long way to go, but if I can continue to do this at the rate that I'm doing it, we'll get it fairly quickly, to be fair. Just need to keep finding these games. But of course, I do need to be able to find things on Vinted that I can flip, and I will pick things up through boot sales and charity shops and whatever. It's not just going to be Vinted. Here are the games I picked up this week. I'm going to trade those in. Here's my voucher. Rinse and repeat. At the moment, I'm finding it a really, really good way of doing it. So of course, I'm going to just rinse it for all it's worth while it's working. So I went in another sort of pawn shop. This is Regenerate. They have a fair few of these down in the south. I have one in my local town. This is the one in Swindon. It's a pretty sad affair, if I'm honest. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way that they do it. Like maybe they don't really want to be buying and selling video games, so they offer poor prices. But the selection in here was terrible. The selection in mine is getting worse. But on this occasion, nothing I wanted. And then, of course, it was all down to CEX. Of course, you know where I am by now. This is the Swindon store, and it was a Saturday, and it was a mess. But that's to be expected because it's a Saturday, and kids come in, they rifle through everything, and well, like that really, and they just leave it there. I pick things up. I noticed something about this store that I haven't really noticed too much in other stores, and I do frequent a fair few, and again I was tricked by the faded spine, but in this store they do have an awful lot of cover reprinted, which isn't a surprise. Many CEXs do. But the one thing I did notice was the quality of the cover reprinted in this store. It was absolutely horrendous. You could spot it a mile away. It wasn't very good, and I don't urge anyone to ever buy cover reprinted, but if you're absolutely desperate or you don't really care, I suppose if you don't care, this isn't going to apply to you, but it was just how bad it was. It just didn't look very good at all. And like this one here, I mean, you're not going to be able to tell on the video, but it just, the quality of it is shocking. And I know that they can't do it to the same quality as the actual artwork. I mean, it makes sense, and you know, I wouldn't expect it, but other CEX stores managed to print better quality looking sort of inserts. I did notice that they had a few of these, the pop cap, I think it's called, hits. Not too bad a price. I don't think they will ever come down, especially as the arcade disappears. Those are the only way you can play those games. So I would absolutely urge anyone to pick those up if you find them. Now, I am saying that, and I didn't pick them up myself because I am trying to keep my credit, of course, to buy a Series X. It has been very difficult for me to keep the credit recently, because there have been a few times where I've spotted maybe Mega Drive games in a particular CEX store. I go to the Bristol CEX store next week, and another one yet again, I think it's Bedminster, and yeah, they have a fair few Mega Drive games that I want, and I could easily have used the credit, but I have to be disciplined in this scenario. So I think on this occasion in particular, I would probably have bought a few things with the credit. I really want Up on the 360. It's a very good game. I am a big Disney fan myself as well, and I can only really see that game going up in price, as I can for most things on the 360, to be fair. But yeah, being disciplined with the credit is definitely something that I'm struggling with right now, which is quite bad really, because we have a long way to go in this series before I can turn those vouchers into a console. In the next episode, I do actually find something in a charity shop. In fact, I find two things in a charity shop worth mentioning, one of which is absolutely outrageous. I obviously go to a boot sale that was on, and I find a few things there, and I may or may not have a game to actually show you that I can put into the collection, because yes, I don't have one today. But that's just the way it goes. We've added some credit to the series though, so that's something. A little bit of progression. It doesn't always have to be a game going into the collection. And I do like a rummage. Yes, I could have bought something in that retro video game store, and to be fair, I absolutely should have spent $7.99 on that Wolverine game. And if I go back there again and it's there, I will pick it up. Or maybe they'll have other promo copies, hopefully. If you went out sourcing on the weekend, or you went for a little bit of a browse and maybe you found something, let me know what it was in the comments. If you'd like to check out another video from this series, you can click here, and until the next time, goodbye.